I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, welcome to Monday morning's meeting. Have you had a chance to read the minutes, Clayton?
Yes, I have.
And I have a motion to approve.
Make a motion to approve.
I will second it. All in favor? say
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. Approved employee claims filed with the county auditor for $2,107.96.
Motion to approve.
Second, all in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Approve the home industry permit for Hayden Family Farms.
These are some exchanges that just you have some notes of some things we're going to converse with Michael on. So the area in which we're talking about, most people know where the Cameron Farms are. North of Independence. Mr. Hayden is a local FFA teacher. He's looking to have 3 or 4 weekends, which are currently September 28th, 29th, October 5th, 6th, October 12th, 13th, and October 19th and 20th. Where in this space, which he owns, 33, just under 34 acres, he's looking to place a pumpkin patch and some fall festivities. And he was watching some of the Wheeland activities online, and he had already began his preparation, thought he better stop into our office and see what we thought and what type of permit he would fall under. And so with this potentially being an annual event, assessed the way our ordinance reads, I felt the home industry permit would fit him the best, and it could be something that, depending on how it goes, obviously the hours, if you read through some of the detail, is going to be from 10 a.m. to 5 p.m. But it will potentially create traffic in and around this area. This place here to the east is empty. This one is currently resided, and then he's spoken to the one to the south. He's not spoken to the neighbor to the north. We always try to entice them to have a conversation with the neighbors prior, and he has done that. And then he's also spoken to Adam Hahn, who's the current Blackhawk County food inspector, talking about those requirements as well. We talked to him about porta potties in regards to the number of people. Again, he would wish that, a large number is going to come, but when it's the first event, you never know. So sometimes that is up in the air, but he has the information to TNS portables, and they're really good if you ever worked with them as far as servicing you, or adding another toilet for the second day. They're really good about that. As far as you want to move it to the next imagery. So as far as the events and where the parking would go, you obviously see that the long lane, that, gives him some space to get vehicles in and off the gravel road. If you want to go to the next septic system is. So anytime that there's going to be cars, it's good to know that where the septic system is not going to be down in the parking area. So even though the system is probably rock and pipe, you still don't want people driving over in case he's got a family that uses the septic system, potentially run it up. But if you want to go back to that one. So the way the drawing is currently, this is where the lateral field is. And if people are walking over that space, won't have any issues as long as cars aren't driving over it. Shouldn't be a problem. But as far as the distance, the south neighbor is 632 feet away, the north neighbor 903 feet away, and then the east vacant home is 951 feet away. But it's a permit that he has been in and paid for. I would recommend it. Again, it's something unique with the pumpkin patch and some of the activities that used to go on right over here by the senior center. has moved over by the county shop, but I'm not sure that it's as used or is in high profile location, so something new I think would be good for the county.
Uh, so the entrance, this is gonna be off and on a rock road, right?
Correct. Yep.
And then how far off the paved road is it?
I would say half a mile.
Okay.
So this is Otterville Boulevard going here and this is going north.
Do you know presently, does he use dust control on the road? Because with traffic pulling in and out and dust issue could make a very unsafe situation there. If you got a lot of traffic and that's dangerous out there, so does he presently have dust control?
There is not, no. I mean, the last time I was on that road, there was. Now, if you drive the county roads like we do, there's a lot of flags out currently, which sometimes mean rocking. And it sometimes means spray. But the last time I was on this road, there was no dust control.
I wonder.
And I would assume that he doesn't necessarily desire it because he's so far back off the road.
Mhm.
Tim Lynch, who lives in the one right to the south, obviously he's a longtime farmer and been in and around it. But that's a conversation that I could definitely have with him.
I would bring that up to him. I mean, I know to get a dual dust control, I've been getting it for years, it's around $400 now, so I imagine to get a single dust control, you're probably talking 200 plus, but I think it'd just be a really good added safety feature for, because there's gonna be families pulling in and out of there and stuff, and I mean, the visibility is terrible out there in these rock roads. And you get a lot of traffic on it. It'd be great if he'd voluntarily maybe do that. I know it's gonna cut into his profit for selling.
Sure. Yeah, we'll definitely have that conversation. And you want, I mean, you could authorize the permit with a motion with the
Condition,
condition of using dust control.
is there anything further you got on this?
No,
So
unless you have any.
I would make a motion to go ahead and move that with the condition that, there is, some dust control put on the road.
All right, I'll second the motion. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. This is so weird with a bunch of people. Approve the resignation of Jackie Shares Public Health effective August 30th, 2024. Karen, do you have anything?
Not on this one.
Okay.
As far as I know, hopefully the Board of Health will act on it. Had some issues with Amy Kelly's resignation. It was never acted on properly.
Okay.
So I'm trying to get on their meeting today to make sure that occurs.
Okay.
If you make that motion to approve this, can you include upon approval of the Board of
Board of
Health?
Health.
Because you guys are basically a team and they do it and then you do it.
That's what I was thinking, Chris.
Okay,
I'll
thank
go
you.
ahead and make a motion, we approve that, that is cleared and approved by the public health also.
All right, I'll second it. All in favor? Motion carries. Approve the promotion of Amber Lorenzen as floodplain administrator, sanitarian, and zoning administrator. We kind of had the same problem with this one because we need the Board of Health to act on it. And then we also need them to act on the salary too, so.
Yes. Yep, the salary part and discussion will be on their regular August 15th meeting, at 7 a.m.
Okay.
So we just, guess no action taken until we get that done.
Right.
Okay, so you,
I'm gonna direct a question to Karen quick. I mean, what's your thoughts of the Board of Supervisors giving their recommendations to the Board of Health, and then the Board of Health has a chance to discuss it, then in August 15th, then they can work together possibly?
I'm hoping that both boards either board of supervisors can get on the Board of Health's meeting agenda on the 15th. And maybe be there present on a Zoom meeting. And that way you can discuss the salary for the
Okay,
position.
Because right now, we don't really have anything in writing on the salary for us to approve that.
Right. And according to Sean, the salary has to be approved by both boards because both boards are paying for that salary.
Mm-hmm.
And they have to agree on a mutual salary amount,
Right, yeah. Because you don't want two different.
right? Because that will create havoc for the payroll department.
So as long as that request is in by this Thursday at 11, right? It's usually when we
Yep.
send in our agenda items for the 15th. So a week before at 11 o'clock on Thursday is when we send that request to the Board of Health,
so
like
Karen,
through Griffin,
Drew Griffin,
for you to be on. Would you agree with that, Amber?
Yes.
And then just some things to think about that I think this board could vote on today. But for after Friday at 4:30, for Amber to have the ability to sign on claims. Her timesheet. Visa card, which actually has my name on it, will get cut up or turned into Karen or Chris.
Okay.
So, we fuel up with gas down at Casey's because we use the cheaper ethanol.
mhm,
Not that that couldn't change. There could be a transition period where you could go back to using the Quick Start card. The supervisors would just have to give Amber the authorization or the PIN to be able to do that. Just an idea for transition. And then the Board of Health next Thursday would have to give Amber the ability to sign on our current grant county or the new name of the private well grant.
okay,
Cause I'm the current signature every quarter as far as claims, and sometimes there's unique, language change within that, procedure that the state will hand down, and we have to re-sign it and send it back in. It's very seldom, but at least so that she can have that. Anything else you can think of?
So I think at this time here about all we can do is go ahead and authorize Amber after you've departed, that you would have full administrative rights to do all these things.
Okay.
That'd be okay with you, Karen?
Yeah, you can approve her having administrative rights, not saying that she's in the position yet.
Yeah. And you have there's gonna be a time frame in there.
Yeah.
A little bit, a few days in there. You all right with filling in and doing that until the final approval? And everything, I hope this is a smooth transaction, but we can never guarantee that.
Right.
But I'm looking for it to be that way. So, as long as you're willing to take care of things after Chad departs, then until that gets all finalized, so.
Yep.
I guess I'll go
I
ahead.
would only make the other comment, we had a conversation with Amber too. So sometimes before I came back, the office was not overly efficient. So although we've spoiled people, attorneys and realtors and individuals that call in for transactions, and we'll turn stuff around in a week, maybe 6 days, our ordinance and as far as the zoning subdivision part, in the zoning ordinance, it does say we have up to 60 days to act.
Okay.
So obviously with her only being herself, one person, I would just suggest that you three understand that, the Board of Health understands that, so when some complaints come, potentially because of maybe efficiency, I don't anticipate that, but that we have 60 days to turn that stuff around. We
Yeah.
just were overly efficient with it.
right,
And expectation is probably pretty high right now, but I just want to make sure that if you show the support and understand that our ordinance reads 60 days. If she's turning around in 20, that's still pretty good.
Right, exactly.
absolutely.
Yeah, you spoil people, Chad.
With the help of her.
Um,
So I'll go ahead and make that motion then that, administrative rights be given to, Amber to take care of things.
Okay.
I will second that, and I'm just hoping to get this all taken care of with the Board of Health sooner rather than later.
Yes,
So,
And then,
great.
I mean, are they all aware the salary request, they've already been sent that,
I believe that's just been shared with Griffin, so I will share that with everybody.
please, please do so.
and then if we could have that in writing also.
Yes, if you want to go ahead and forward that, when you forward that onto the Board of Health, if you want to forward it to the supervisors too, and Chris
Okay.
and Karen, yeah.
All in the loop.
Yep,
Did we take it? Again,
I did. You made a motion, I seconded it. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you.
thanks.
Thank you.
So you're able to. Be on the agenda.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
And we're gonna have your phone number.
Oh, yeah.
So, yeah, I was gonna ask, so that number that is your cell phone transfers to her?
Actually, that's my personal cell.
Okay,
So when I came back, I just get a stipend each month. And I've just always used my own cell phone because everybody in the county has it anyway.
okay,
So rather than carrying two phones, and I basically $50 a month versus, maybe 110 for the county.
Yeah.
So save the taxpayers money.
What's your plans on that, Amber? You got any?
I thoroughly haven't decided yet. I know that I can. How do I want to say that? So currently, if anybody calls the office, like each phone has their direct phone number. And that direct phone number could be transferred to my cell phone, so therefore I'm not missing any phone calls. So that might be something
that would be good.
that I'll consider. Yeah, the only thing is texting. You can't really, you can't really get those changed over, but
Have you been driving, the county truck any now?
occasionally I do when I go to trainings or,
So you've got your insurance coverage turned in.
yes, yep, I do. Yeah,
You drive that old truck?
not the white one.
Oh,
No,
okay.
The new black one.
no.
And that's up for tire rotation and oil change that I'll get done at Dunlap's this week before I go.
Okay,
And that was free included with the purchase. So. It's nice.
great. Is planning and zoning okay with this change?
Yeah.
You're okay letting Chad go?
No, but
I voted no to that, by the way.
We don't have much choice. I'll just make a statement that I can't blame Chad for what he's doing. Changes in life do happen and he has an opportunity to move on and so be it. I think Amber will be a good fill-in, but perhaps she needs some help.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
We've been through a lot here the last
Couple
3
years.
years, to be honest with you. I mean, the
Believe me,
office has changed down there.
believe me, I used to get a lot of phone calls. And I used to have to carry Band-Aids with myself to put on the hindsight. And that's pretty much ended.
Chad was very organized, very transparent with us. No complaints there. And Amber's been following in his steps here for an extended period of time. I think it'll be good.
Yeah,
Yeah.
she's went through the apprenticeship program now.
One heck of an apprenticeship program.
All right, nothing else, I guess.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you very much.
Yeah, thanks,
Have a
Amber.
great day.
All right, next up, my glasses on, I have to read this. Place on file the following manure management plans, DBF Pork LLC, Middlefield Township, Section 12. Weber Finisher, Jefferson Township, Section 10. Neighbor Farm, Liberty, Section 12. Smith Hill Hog Site Number 1, Fremont Township, Section 35. Honey Creek Pork LLC, Newton Township, Section 26. 7 Braden's 1 LLC, Middlefield Township, Section 12. Dolan Finisher, Middlefield Township, Section 25.
Make a motion to place them on file.
All in favor? I'll
Aye.
second it. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. Discuss approved bid for gutter work at food pantry.
Definitely must to get that done, and,
I thought.
I think we've got a reasonable quote here and cost. So I will go ahead and make a motion that we approve that project, move and get it done.
All right. I will second it. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. Meet with Bethany Jordan, Martin Gardner Architecture Courthouse Condition Report.
Hi, Bethany.
Bethany, come on up.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Do you guys already have one or do you need a printed one?
Yeah, I got
You
here.
got one, okay.
I have one, but yours is in color.
Okay, so we can kind of go through this however you'd like. Do you want me to kind of, have you had a chance to review it, both of you? I'm sure you have. I don't know if Dawn
Yeah,
has.
I think it would be great to have
Okay,
Go through it.
here
Okay.
from you,
that sounds good.
in case there's any,
In case we
maybe
missed
we're
something.
not interpreting it quite right or something.
Sure, that sounds good. So overall, the building is in pretty good shape. And so, you know, you can tell that the county has maintained it.
So the
Pretty
public,
well.
so the public knows here, we did a condition review, hired Martin Gardner to do that, to see that what the condition, get a report made on the condition of the courthouse and see what maybe we needed to move forward with, for infrastructure needs and maintenance and repair. So,
Yep, and so the point of this is to kind of tell you, where the issues are within the building and then help you prioritize the needs for projects after that. So again, overall, building is in very good shape. When I was here, I found the wind damage for the roof. Has that been replaced already or is it
no,
still
we're
in
waiting for
plan?
that
Okay,
contractor. We're not getting it done as soon as we wanted to. And
Okay.
we've been keeping our fingers crossed that a wind doesn't come along and rip the membrane and then we wind up having interior damage down
Sure.
walls and stuff. So we are holding our breath on that. They,
do they have an
This company
EPA or do
did-
you have a contractor selected?
yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so they've given you a bid,
Yeah,
you have it approved.
right. It's all approved and moving forward.
Who do you have for the contractor?
That's,
Out of curiosity.
out of Waterloo, Service Roofing out of Waterloo.
Okay,
The gentleman that was here, we did a site visit.
Yeah.
Together with him. And the trouble is with that, this company does a lot of work for universities and
Okay.
schools and stuff and trying to get them projects done before school starts.
sure. Well, then, yeah, hopefully then school will be starting soon, so hopefully they'll have availability after that. There is a couple spots up there and I knew you were in the works for repair. I didn't know if it had been replaced yet or not. There are a couple spots like where water is getting in, like there was when the wind is going across really high, it basically sucks up and down on the membrane. And so then it pulls it away from the walls, all of the pipe flashings that you have. So there was a couple pipe flashings where there was nothing like I can shove my finger in there. So water is getting in there in small areas. I mean, you're waiting for them to come, so it is what it is. And I don't think it's a major concern, but I do want you to know there are some areas where a little bit of water is getting in. And I didn't see any large gaping holes that I thought, a temporary repair needed to be done if they weren't gonna come in for another month, so.
Mhm.
Hopefully they can, maybe within a month, get out here and that will be okay.
We're looking, this happened when I was off for a couple of weeks there.
Mhm.
John kind of took things and made phone calls and stuff then in
Sure.
my absence and stuff on that. But, John was told that they were gonna come get in here this month of August.
Oh, okay, good, okay, good. Let's see. Okay, so we'll just kind of jump in then, to the issues that I found. So on the east side of the building over here, you have two basement mechanical rooms. I call them north and south.
Okay.
And then they've got that concrete slab structure with some open air mechanical stuff on it. You've got the screening around it. We could probably see it. So
Right, your generator sits out there.
yes. And then, so the north mechanical room in the basement, it has a cast in place roof structure that has beams. And I can see that there are quite a few, there's rebar exposed, it's severely rusted. The bottom of the beams are kind of gone in many areas. And it's been patched. I can tell it's been patched.
Mhm.
Patch has failed. So this is the north room is where I would actually recommend you probably need to get a structural engineer in to recommend repairs or replacement of part of that roof structure. It's not a thing where the entire roof has to go, I don't think. And when I say roof, it's the concrete slab that you
Right.
see at the ground level, right? But it is enough where those beams, I mean, you can see in the pictures, like I should not see rebar
Right.
and that whole, so that concrete beam has kind of lost its bearing capacity. So this is where you need to have a structural engineer tell you.
And it looks like the one next to it's cracked.
Yeah, so they'll assess and they'll look at them, all of them a bit closer. And I would expect, maybe the first 3 or 4, maybe the first 2 or 3 need replaced, maybe a couple others need repair. They've just had a lot of moisture over the years. And then the south room has a lot of sludge from water. You can see that there's a lot of water that has gone in that south room. It's very wet. And there's sludge on the ground. And so Lyle was nice enough when we were walking around, we kind of did a water test. So I saw that there was a joint in, the concrete where there was some, weeds growing out of, which seemed suspicious. And so but I couldn't tell, it's like how much water is actually getting in through this joint or not. And so we had a hose, he got the hose and we just let water run over it,
Uh-huh.
essentially with the garden hose, and went back in and water was immediately dripping down the inside of that room. So we could see where it was wet. So that one is an easier fix. It's just clean out that joint, reseal it. And I would also have them look so at some point, clearly, water issues have happened with this area for a while. It looks like the county did a poured epoxy coating on the top of it to
Mhm.
stop water from getting in the top. But that now where the concrete has moved, at those cracks, it's cracked the epoxy coating. And so that's where water's getting in now. So now any of the cracks in the epoxy need to be kind of cleaned out, resealed. They can probably even patch the epoxy. And then that should, I think, be sufficient for kind of keeping the water out of there.
We have already started some things, not as far as getting a structural engineer to look at
Mhm.
doing something about this beam deterioration,
Yeah.
of the beams and stuff down there. But we've got 2 quotes. We're working with 2 different companies down there to improve the sump system down there.
Mhm.
and have a backup sump system,
Sure.
battery and stuff to make sure that the area can't flood, and to do some troughing to get that water to the sump and stuff like that.
Mhm.
And also to put some dehumidification down there, because
Yep. which
this
would
is
be
all caused by moisture.
good. Mhm.
So we're working on getting quotes and dealing with that right now.
Mhm.
But the next, like you said, the next phase, then we'll have to get a structural engineer in
Sure.
to look at maybe what can be done with the damage that's already happened to do repair to it.
Well, we might want to get a structural engineer in first because they were talking about putting like a coating or something over the walls. And
Yeah,
I think all that's gonna
that's
do
not
is
gonna
just-
be the fix. So you have to make
They're
sure,
gonna have the water.
yeah, I mean, generally speaking, just kind of coating the underside of something, all that is gonna do is trap more moisture in there. You really need to make sure that you've solved the issue of moisture getting in from the outside
Right.
first
Yeah.
and on the top of it. And in my opinion, some of these concrete beams that have been patched before, it's not, they need to, it's like a beam replacement, because you can see the rebar is rusted
Right.
and it's not going to unrust. And so it is very hard for new concrete to adhere to that, especially when it will continue to rust. And when metal rusts, it expands. It's just gonna pop it back off. And so I truly think, I think the fix for some of those beams that are closest to the parking lot is for them to replace them.
Right.
I don't think patching or coating the inside is gonna do anything. Coating the outside? Absolutely.
Mhm.
I would not coat the inside of this, because any moisture that does get in then can't
Just
get
try.
out. It's trapped. And especially with your Reno-Dry system, which you have down here, that will help with moisture. I think the dehumidifier still in the south room, because that has so much water,
Mm,
is still a good idea, but theoretically you shouldn't need it throughout the other parts of the building.
mm.
Maybe especially in the north basement room. But yeah, cause that's the Reno-Dry's purpose, is to stop the moisture from bonding to the masonry.
Mm.
And so it just goes away. And also theoretically, now that you have that system, I mean, it is probably, you still need to seal up the open joints on the top, but it's, the Reno-Dry system definitely does help.
Yeah.
And it should help.
We have made some progress here. We made sure when we redid the parking lot, we had better sloping, we did curving
Yes.
out there, and we sealed up
Mhm.
there around that stuff. We've been moving in that direction, but we've slowed it down immensely.
Sure.
But we still got issues with infiltration of moisture and stuff.
Mhm.
Yeah. We
And
need,
I do think they're minor though. I really think it's sealing those open cracks that have happened in the epoxy coating. That's where there's problems
And
now.
then sealing that corner, that crack.
Yeah, so actually, so this corner, it's coming in along the crack that is right here.
So if we seal this crack up and then we clean out that corner and we seal that corner, it should be fine.
Yeah, the corner itself doesn't need sealed. It's the joint at the top.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a joint at the top. And so I would also have them check any of the other cracking on this epoxy flooring
Yep.
and reseal that. The thing is, this joint, it's a movement joint. This, where the water's coming in, because that's right where the wall comes up between the north and the south basement room.
Right.
So it's going to keep moving. And so actually what they need to do is make it essentially an expansion joint or a movement joint. The epoxy does not move. When the concrete moves underneath it, the epoxy will just crack. And so the repair is basically clean that out and then put like backer rod and sealant that can move.
Like that foam,
Yeah,
the
they'll
foam stuff that
do,
you put between the concrete cracks. And
Um,
then the gray seal.
yes, and then a really good, high quality, high elastic sealant on it.
Yep.
Which any pavement contractor, I mean, any.
Yeah, we do that
concrete,
on,
Yes,
yeah.
it's very straightforward, so. Even though the issue causes all kinds of things and looks really bad, like it's a relatively easy fix, maybe other than the structural engineer portion of it, but it's pretty clear, like this has long been an issue.
Mhm.
This is not a recent thing, and so and when I watched the water with the garden hose, like it was going away it was going into the parking lot, not back along the thing and into the building. So I can tell that that's been kind of worked on, so.
And our plans are to get rid of all that old punch board stuff that's sandwiched on the wall down here. Because if we get that out, it would help dry the wall a lot better and stuff.
Yeah,
So we were waiting, we had some connections here, some different phone connections. I think now that all that stuff can come off that wall.
okay. Any other questions about that?
No.
Okay. I'm gonna skip the order in here just a little bit because I want to finish talking about exterior building envelope before I go inside. So I'll talk a little bit about the masonry, which I have on here kind of as a lower priority, a medium priority, where there's not an immediate repair required. Page 6, it starts on. Yeah, and so overall, the brick and the masonry is in very good shape. I didn't see a lot of spalling, which is where the front of the brick kind of pops off and the soft stuff you can scratch your finger at is underneath. I didn't see a lot of that. I wanted to note, one thing. Do you know when the building was last repointed? When there was a last repoint? Yeah,
That was probably, I'm guessing 6 years.
okay.
It was done shortly after this is my 8th year here, and I think was in the process of getting something done with it here. Probably the first 2 years.
So maybe 2018?
Yeah.
Okay.
You recall, Chris, you might have been in there seeing claims come in on that. I'm thinking that's when it happened. Yeah,
I came in 2016 and it was shortly after that. And then the last time we had any tuck pointers in was when they finally figured out to fix the leak in the auditor's office.
yeah. So I imagine we're talking at least 6 years when it was.
Okay, okay. Good. Yeah, and overall, like, I'm not seeing a lot of air or really any areas where water is getting in at the masonry. I wanted to point out, so there's been just a couple things for when future projects are undertaken. I can see where some of the areas where it's been, I think just a kind of a quick fix to fill a hole, where they'll put sealant back in a mortar joint if it's deteriorated, I think. Which is actually, and there's only kind of a few instances where we really want sealant in a mortar joint because we want that joint to be able to let water out, and sealant traps water in that joint. And so again, when masonry is porous, it kind of soaks up water, needs to breathe. And so when the water tries to get out, if it can't get out because there's sealant there, it'll try to go elsewhere through the brick. And that's when we have issues with freeze thaw and spalling, etc. So I wanted to just make a note too, whenever little repairs are done, it's better to either leave them open until you've got a handful of areas where you can bring in a mason to just do a couple hours and repoint, or have mortar and fill that patch.
Okay.
The other issue is that once sealant is in a joint, it makes it hard for mortar to re-adhere there because it basically sticks to the side of the brick. And so a mason actually has to go in and grind off a little bit of the face of the brick to get the mortar to stick again.
Oh, so the person doing that job's not gonna be happy with us.
Correct, yeah, but I mean, and the good masons, they don't have to shave off a lot, but we don't really want them shaving off any of the brick, right, if we can
Right.
avoid it. So, there are a couple areas, so there's, as I said, there's limited instances where sealant is okay. One is if we think there is a joint where there is still movement in the building. And so on all of the corners of your building, you have a lot of vertical cracking. And some there's more than others. And so you can see in the pictures, like this is one where there's long vertical crack, there's sealant in it. And then you've got other corners where this picture, you can see there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 vertical cracks as opposed to 1. And so there's kind of 2 schools of thought. If you think the joint's still moving, it's kind of okay to put sealant back in there. The other school of thought is, with all of this cracking, a bunch of these bricks used to be whole bricks.
Mhm.
And they didn't replace them, and now they're not. And so now the bearing capacity of this wall is not as strong as it once was because they didn't go back and replace the brick that was cracked. They just caulked them. And so my preference would be, and again, it's not, there's no open joints here. I don't see a major issue right now. At the next repointing job in however many years, when it's done, I would recommend they replace any of the broken brick and monitor it. And if it cracks again, then we know, okay, there's still settlement in the building, because a lot of these cracks could just be that the building has settled and it's kind of settled down,
Right.
literally, and it's done.
I would hope.
If it's still moving, then what we would do is we would maybe cut a control joint in a proper spot for it and still repair the brick here. So you've still got the strength of the wall
Right.
reestablished. So again, it's kind of future stuff. You do also have at your front stone steps, there's all the limestone, and it all has sealant in all of those joints. And so again, it is, if you go look at this panel that I have a picture of, you can see it's causing issues
So
there.
instead of doing it right, we just essentially put a Band-Aid on it that's making it worse.
Yes. Right there.
Duct tape and Band-Aid. Got it.
Yes. Yeah, and there are some in it. So another place where sealant is okay in masonry is if it's like, think of your top parapet cap, you have metal on it. But if it were stone, it's okay to seal those joints. It's okay to seal like in your marble steps. Any of the top joints in that, we want sealant on there because we don't want water to get in. So anywhere where the stone is a flat surface, it's okay to seal those joints, but you have to have a way for the water to get out. And the water goes down and then gets out. So that's why at the bottom of everything, you've got to have a way for the water to get out. And so, yes, again, I mean, if you wanted to have a mason out and do some work, like you could replace this panel, it probably just makes sense to wait and do it properly when you next have a
Right.
larger repointing job or a larger masonry job, on the project. So let me see, I don't think there was any major thing. Yeah, so masonry right now is not a concern. I just wanted to point that out. And then, okay, so then I will go back to plaster, which starts on page 4. And so this was kind of the main reason you guys had me come in, was concern over plaster deterioration in the courtroom and the jury room. And so I looked at the jury room first, and you have the faux wood paneling on there. I pushed on it and could hear all of the plaster cracking behind it. And so I think in that room, I suspect if and when you take the faux wood, the faux paneling off, probably over half of those walls are gonna have the plaster completely failed.
How much of that do you think is growing mold?
There's probably mold back there because there is a sheet of plastic. So they put a sheet of plastic and then they put the faux wood paneling up. So it even kind of trapped it in there real good. So there might be some. It might not be as bad as what you think.
And the
But-
stripping, and the thing about it is, the stripping that was used for the paneling and stuff is releasing from the wall also. That's why you see a lot excessive fall.
Yes, yeah, the paneling, I think, was just kind of anchored in through that, and now that when the plaster is failing, it's just all, has nothing to
Probably
attach.
put anchors in not deep enough.
Yeah, who knows? And so again, I'm not seeing really any areas where water is getting in at the outside anymore. Overall, I think the plaster deterioration is due to old leaking that has been fixed. My thought on this corner is, I mentioned with your brick on your corners, where a lot of them had lots of cracking. I think it's just been either leaks at the roof in the past. Perhaps water getting in this cracking on the corners before they did the repointing project.
Okay.
It tends to take a lot of moisture over a long period of time to get the plaster to really fail badly. It's not something where you get a leak and you see it that day. It takes a long time
So
for
believe me.
plaster damage to become apparent.
And where that water enters and stuff, I mean, we had a big battle with down here, with water getting in down here. I mean, there's probably half a dozen trips at least made by somebody trying to figure out where the water was getting in. I
Mhm,
mean, it's just,
yeah.
it's hard to determine where it's coming.
It can be hard with plaster deterioration, especially because water can kind of get in and it can travel in wonky ways that you don't expect. But again, overall, your building envelope is watertight, which is why I wanted to talk about that first. So I do think it's, other than maybe a couple limited instances, it's old leaks. And throughout the entirety of the building, there's varying degrees of plaster deterioration, from kind of the more typical signs where it's by your steam radiators where you'll see, you know, flaking paint or bubbling paint, or by the windows, you'll see a little bit, to the more severe deteriorations in the jury room, and then what's in the courtroom by the windows. And I think, again, I think the plaster deterioration by the courtroom windows is from previous leaks. I can see the perimeter of the large windows in the courtroom on the outside. The perimeter is well sealed up. It's new. I'm sure they did that when they did the repointing work. It's very common. So water is not getting in around the window frame. It probably was in the past before they did that project, which is what I would attribute most of this to. The windows themselves are in need of repair. It could be that some water is getting in through the window itself. I mean, I can see where kind of the glazing compound on the windows is failing. The windows need to be repaired.
The
So-
overall framework of the window, do you see anything wrong with the window framework?
No, and usually we see water getting in around the window frame. That's the prime area, and it's not, from what I can tell. I looked at it from the roof, looking down. I looked at it from the ground, kind of zooming in. Now, if somebody gets up close to it, maybe on the lift and is looking around, they might find a spot or something, but for the most part, I feel like I could see it fairly well. So I think in here, I do think the windows should be repaired, perhaps replaced. But we can talk about that in a moment. I'm trying to think if there's anything else I want to talk about related to plaster.
Do you think we'll have to go that far with replacing windows?
No, I don't think you have to.
We don't want to go down that road if we don't have to.
Yes, so before I move on to windows, I will talk about, I do think you should get, a plumber in to inspect your exterior hose bibs. Because there is a hose bib, it's in this picture, it's on your west side, kind of by the front, maybe right
It's
over
right
there.
outside the window of my office behind, actually in our back room. If you look out the window, it's right down there,
Okay.
attached to the jail.
And there's directly inside is a very small little bathroom, I think, if I
Yeah.
matched it up. Okay, I think I got them right, but I could be wrong. I think there's a little toilet right here, but anyway, I can see on the outside, there is a lot of signs of water that's kind of spreading throughout the wall. I'm worried the piping is leaking. And then on the inside, I'm seeing a lot of plaster deterioration. There were kind of similar exterior signs on the hose bib that's on the east side by the employee entrance. And so I would just recommend getting a plumber out and inspecting all of them while they're here. And then seeing if they're leaking. Yeah, I think that's kind of it about plaster. So for windows, the majority of the courthouse windows have been replaced. I think I saw in the National Register nomination, they mentioned the windows were replaced in the 1990s. Do you know if they've been replaced since then?
No.
Okay, you think they are from that? Okay. And then I think, yeah, your last remaining original steel windows are in the courtroom with your beautiful ornamental grills that are on the outside. You've got an interior storm window that they've added for energy efficiency for those. But overall, the windows are, they're hard to operate. They're starting to rust. The glazing compound has failed and cracking. They are in need of repair. And there are companies that will repair the steel windows. I always recommend repair over replacement whenever possible, and these are definitely repairable. It's more of a specialized repair. You need a contractor that is familiar with historic steel windows, but they are out there. I know of some companies, and it will likely be that they kind of take them all out, send them down to be restored in a shop, and then probably reinstall them. But, when you get to the point of doing that project, you can look at repair versus replacement options. The windows themselves are fairly simple. It's the decorative grill on the outside that's really giving it the ornamental appearance. And that, the ornamental grill, it needs to be repainted. There's probably some spot repair on it that would need done. But it's not, doesn't need the level of repair restoration that the windows do.
Okay.
Themselves. So you could look at repair versus replacement cost. But you also then with that need to look at the lifespan of both of those products. So replacement windows, so these windows have lasted, 90 years or so.
39.
Yeah. And new windows will not last that long. Your replacement, and I should mention too, I'm starting to see, you can kind of see it in these where your replacement windows, the seals and the gasketing are starting to fail. If you look at them closely, you can see the fogging, like that one has fogging at the bottom. You can see where the black inside, if you look at it, is starting to kind of crack the sealant is. There were a couple that I observed where it is failed and it's fogged. So like in the near future, a lot of these will be failing. And that's kind of the typical, I think you've gotten, if this was 1990s, you've gotten 30 years out of them, which is about the max of what you will get with the replacement window.
We're seeing the
We've
same
had
thing
some-
over the senior center too.
Yes.
We've had some paint replacement done in some different windows. I know there've been 2 or 3 done in the
Yeah.
auditor's office.
And they may be able, I am not familiar with these replacement ones, but it could be that they can replace parts of these and not have to replace the whole window. They can replace the insulated glazing unit, reseal them, etc. But the main point is, 30 years is about max for these. If you restore the original steel windows, I would expect double or triple that
Right.
for the lifespan. So, when you get to that project, it's something that can be looked at and discussed. I think that's mainly it. I mentioned, I put the acoustic tiles in there. You have original, the National Register denomination called them Celotex acoustic tiles. Some of them have staining, some have been spot replaced, some the ones that have had water damage over the years, and overall, it's a very low priority, but I put some information in there. So I think the north and south mechanical rooms, addressing those, getting the plumber to look at the hose bibs, those are kind of the immediate things, and then the larger project for repair is, yes, the courtroom windows, along with, it makes the most sense to repair the plaster while whenever you do that window replacement. And so the next steps are probably planning for that project, which would be window replacement, plaster repair. I would also include, the plaster repair is kind of, it's harder to find the specialized contractors, the subcontractors that do that. They're out there. But the important thing is you have lots of plaster texture. So like this is one example, that wherever they're patching plaster at, you want them to match that texture. So you've got highly textured stuff here, you've got flat plaster, you've got ornamental plaster with your dental moldings, and your decorative moldings. And so you wanna make sure that all of that is matched wherever it's repaired.
Now in the courtroom, we got some of that acoustic
Mhm.
panel down there. I mean, that's gonna be a specialty thing to try and match and take care of that and stuff. I mean, that's gonna be an issue.
Yeah, I mean, I can see where the one where there was the steam, line leak above the stairway that goes up.
Mhm.
They patched, there's a picture in here, they patched it, and other than the color, the texture looks great. It almost made me wonder if they have some as maintenance material somewhere in a closet, or if they truly found new, I don't know. It's this picture right there on page 5.
Right.
So the only, you can paint the tile, it just loses its a little bit of its acoustic quality when you paint it. But that would be the best way to make it all kind of blend. And in the courtroom, most of the issues is it's staining. And you can't really clean it. So if you wanted it to look not dirty, you would probably have to paint it.
Now this, here in stereo, that we discontinued that. It's the heater getting serviced
Yeah.
up in the old jail area.
Yeah.
And to get away from wall destruction and a lot of cost, we
Yeah.
just capped it off and
Yep,
limited.
that one, yeah.
That was
you
no
abandoned.
longer needed because that was, area was vacated and
Yep.
stuff, so there was enough other heat from the other to take care of it. But to do this repair, I don't know, and I haven't checked into it, somebody that's is a restoration work and stuff. I heard that the paint, that mold paint that's out there in the
Mhm.
coving and stuff, is some kind of special gold infused paint. I don't know what it is.
Yeah,
Figure out what
probably.
that is, because if we do a repair in that corner and paint, I don't know how we'd ever match that up.
They have gold, I mean, historically, it could have, I don't know what was in the painting, or it could be gold leaf that's up there.
I would assume somebody that does that work would know.
Yes, and there are plenty of new gold paint products. I've used some on, restoring copper eagle statues and then repainting some bronze storefront, where they have a chart of like 100 different gold paints. And so Crescent Bronze happens to be the manufacturer of it. There's lots out there. I wouldn't be concerned about finding a new gold paint to match. It would be out there, I would think. Yes. So what questions do you
Well, the
have?
question being, I guess I got some things here.
Yeah.
Being this, we're on the historical register, so
Mhm.
there's criteria that we're gonna have to follow. Any work that we do on the structure of the building or the looks of the building, so we're gonna have to be very careful
Mhm.
to make sure that whoever the contractor is dealing with these issues, that are meeting all that criteria and stuff.
Yep.
And not only that, I'm hoping, I've heard, and I haven't really checked it out real thoroughly, that there's certain grant opportunities, funding opportunities for historical buildings and stuff like that.
Mhm.
And of course, anything with that is probably, you probably know better than me on that. All that stuff is usually cost share issues.
Mhm.
I heard that there was one available through the state somehow that, if you got approved and stuff, you had like a time period of 20 months to get the work completed. After the grant money was approved to get the project done.
I will say usually the timeframes that I see are very generous and reasonable. I've also seen where they've been extremely reasonable about time extensions. If a project couldn't get completed by a certain date, I've seen them give many extensions, and exceptions for projects. So I would not necessarily worry about time frame. Because you're gonna have the typical time frame projects is you'll have to have construction drawings done for it. And so the architect needs time to make those. They'll put in all the requirements of what they need to follow, the Secretary of the Interior standards. Other requirements that they have to follow. And then there's bidding time, then there's construction time. So usually I see at least a couple of years.
Yeah.
A minimum of 2, if not 3.
And this is all issues that will have to be budgeted.
Yes, and they all do usually require a match of some sort from the county or the owner. I have some grant opportunities listed in there.
That's,
Um,
you got that in there because
Yeah.
right now you need to know who to go reach out to and where to go.
Yes, and so the one that's perhaps the best fit is the HRDP grant. It's the first one listed. It is up to 50,000, so it's not a lot of grant money. It is usually extremely competitive. You kind of have to have a grant writer, a historic grant writer, write the application for you to really have any shot at it. They didn't do it last year because of SHPO's move, become part of IEDA,
Oh my
but I would
gosh.
expect them to do it this year. They usually had them do May 1st. So I expect they'll open it up next year for it.
Yeah, we had to wait on SHPO to do another project. It takes them a very long time.
Yep, and they've been backlogged on many things even before they were put under Iowa Economic Development Authority in that department, but them not doing the grant was a direct result of that move. So they put that grant on hold, but I expect them to redo it. There are a couple other grants in here. There's a couple small national ones that I don't think necessarily would be a good fit. You have to be, a member of the National Trust, an organizational level forum member, Main Street America member to get them, and they're small. Usually the local COG, your council of government, will have usually they know of other opportunities. There could be, I've seen projects get Iowa DOT funding because they were on a scenic byway. I've seen them, they're the ones that know of all of these kind of other grants that are not necessarily historic preservation focused, but that can be used for brick and mortar repair projects, actual repair projects. A lot of the other historic grants are for like planning, for getting a building listed on the National Register, for doing a National Register district, et cetera. So
So
the brick and mortar grants are the ones that are harder to find, that you can use for an actual construction project, not just for brick and mortar, even though I call it that. That's just what they're called. You were gonna say something, Don?
so the next step is essentially to get a bid on like doing, if we're gonna do the window replacement or window repair and the plaster work up in the courtroom and the jury room would be to get a grant, would be to get a bid from a contractor that specializes in it.
You would probably need for this, unless you were going to just tackle kind of
Piece that.
one at a time, you'll probably need construction drawings. So you will probably have to have an architect prepare construction drawings for the scope of work that you want, the window replacement, the plaster repair. Those are the two main.
So we would
things,
have to
but
pay somebody to do architecture work.
yes, you
to
probably.
draw
need
what we already have to apply for a grant.
It's the value in having the construction drawings is so that you can get apples to apples bids from different contractors. Because if you bring in 3 contractors right now and you tell them, give me a repair cost for the plaster and restoring these windows, you're gonna get 3 extremely different costs. And they're all gonna look at it differently. And so the construction drawings should help identify the specific scope that they need to do for the repairs and essentially the products. The tricky thing is to go after it's hard because you want to have grant money to fund the project. But usually to get the grant, you have to have some sort of idea of what the project is going to be, i.e. preliminary construction drawings, a preliminary opinion of cost. Anytime you go after a grant and ask for money, they're gonna ask you, well, how much is the project gonna cost? So you would probably need to have some schematic level of the project figured out, cost opinion plans. Then you could probably go after some grants. And then if you get the grant, you can decide to, finish the construction drawings and then send it out for bid.
I think there's multiple things that we're looking at down there, and we're talking about the window repair, we're talking about plastering, we're talking about painting. Several different types of projects. So I think we gotta have somebody that, like a general
Yes.
person, can handle all that and
Mhm.
put that all together, because I can't see this board wanting to go to work on, okay, we're gonna have these contractors bid on this, we're gonna have these contractors bid on that. We need somebody that's a general contractor that can handle all that, put all this together.
Yes. Yep. Yeah, and you would have a general contractor bid on the project that would have specialized subcontractors. So they will have the ornamental plaster, they'll have probably flat plaster, they might do the windows themselves, but they will subcontract other work. You still need a general to actually lead the whole project and coordinate that.
You've identified conditions here, and potential, revenue sources, where we can go to and stuff like that. So
Mhm.
you as an architect firm, we need an architect firm to provide these drawings for the general.
Yes, yeah.
And then, is there anything between there that would need to be done to get this all fit in? So we got a complete,
No, the only kind of immediate, maybe an intermediate step would be going after grant funding, because a lot of projects will do that. They'll kind of the front end schematic planning of it, enough to get an idea of the cost and the overall scope. They submit that with their grant application to show projects ready. They've done their due diligence, and then once they get the grant, they'll finish out the project. Many projects are grant dependent. You would maybe want to have a plan in place if you don't get the grant, what happens? Do you wait another year, try to get the grant? Do you wait another year and save up some additional funding for it, et cetera? So it'd be good to have a plan in place of doing that.
so basically the next phase here, I mean, there's some small things that we can do here.
Yeah, giving you the stuff that you can do on your own to kind of tackle, you've got that. The larger project that does require more planning and that you need actual construction documents for is the courtroom project. The other stuff you should be able to take care of.
Right. When you have somebody come in, tuck point, just have them clean up those joints that you talked about,
Yes.
and the plumber come in to.
Yep.
And we already are working on the roof, so that's done.
Yep. The only other thing is the structural engineer.
Yeah.
We need to reach out, I guess, and get, proposals. And
I would recommend having a couple structural engineers give you. Or if you're allowed to hire any engineer that you want. It's not like contractors where it has to go through a public bidding process, same for architects. So if you have an engineer that you use or you trust on the building, you're allowed to hire them.
But we have to have somebody do the drawings and stuff too. So the general contractor's got these drawings, so we make sure that we're getting
Yeah.
apples to apples.
Yep.
I've tried to go from a couple years ago, like for Guttenberg, City Hall. We tried to have a contractor like do a bid based on, well, here, the building condition assessment tells you what work you need to do. Give the city an estimate to do these repairs. and nobody bid on it because it was not defined enough. This is just kind of, this is a high level. It's not giving you the actual quantifiable things that they can get quantities from and base their costs on. So,
Hasn't your company been involved with the courthouse north of us here doing some?
Winnebago, yeah, yep. We've done various projects. I've worked for Winnebago County since 2018, 17. So
Mhm.
we've done various projects for them.
Do you have some reference? Contact person up there?
Yeah, you could talk to, Ben Steinez is the auditor, or Tony Clark is the deputy auditor. And I think a couple of the supervisors have, gone off the board, but I think I've worked with most of them on a project.
Yeah, supervisor, we come and go.
Trying to think who's the chair right now. Maybe, but yes.
Anything else, Clayton? I don't have anything else. Thank you.
Yeah,
Appreciate it.
Got your
Good.
contact information if I could think of a question.
Yes. Yes, and this is, this is what I call like the 95% draft. I'm gonna finish it up and then we'll give you, I'll make sure you get a printed bound copy to keep. I was gonna ask you, when was the jail built on the south side?
That was.
2010, 2011.
Thank you.
There you go in there. They
Somewhere in
probably
there.
project started in
Okay.
'09 maybe or something like that.
Sure. And this year we talked about roof. Okay, yeah, that was it. There was a couple things I highlight. I was like, I had a note and then I was like, I didn't have the year. So, thank you.
Of
Thank
course,
you.
the building, you got other things to issue with the HVAC system, the plumbing system.
Sure.
Electrical system,
Yes.
there's all that stuff that goes along with it.
Yep, exactly.
Next up is a rental
We
of,
do have an HRDP grant for our Taylorsford Bridge for rehabbing an old bridge.
Oh, nice. It's hard to get those. That's nice that you got one for that.
That, I've got matching, or not matching funds, I've got a bunch of funds coming in through the STP program too, through Intercom.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I've not heard of the STP one. So that's one that they're aware of, the COG is.
Well, it's funding through the COG, it's for historical transportation.
Oh, okay.
Is the federal guidelines on it.
Oh, okay.
so does that mean we drive only antique cars on it? Since it's historical transportation.
I won't answer that one, Don.
Okay, thanks, Bethany. You have a great one.
All right, Brian, a rental of some disc and roller.
Good morning.
Morning.
Well, we're getting ready to do, in our research project keeps expanding and expanding and expanding. We've got a bunch more donations coming in on it. And, so one of the things we've known we need is a roam disc or a disc, a heavy disc, and a roller. And Tom called around on the roller.
Okay, I'm gonna back you up for a second. Can you tell me what this does? This piece of equipment?
Okay, what we're trying to do is we're trying to strengthen our soils. And if you look even at 280th Street down there where we tried to strengthen it.
Uh-huh.
Over the last winter, it beat flat. And nothing will hold it. What our real fear is, the spring 2019, it was just a disaster. There was roads that were impassable.
Right.
And so we're trying to figure out ways to make that so that doesn't happen that way. Now, the problem that we get into is the scope, the size of our 732 miles of rock roads. That's why the roller is good, because it's going around and it's done here in Buchanan County. But that'll tell us how strong our soils are there, so we can kind of start identifying weak areas, relate that back to truck traffic, and try and come up with solutions. And so we're working on solutions right now. We've got two basic types of solutions we've been trying, chemical solutions and fabrics. And that's where the waste plastics drain and those rollers and they're really wanting to get more sensors on that. That's what's been delaying that one. On the chemical side, there's a various different types of chemicals out there.
Mhm.
And we don't want to be buying snake oil. And yet for our soils, I've used Team Base One product. And the guys didn't think it did me much of any good.
Okay, so the roller just,
This is the tool to install equipment. So the process we'll do is we have a ripper on a motor grader. That's great big teeth that go in the ground and tear the road base up.
okay,
Then we'll spray it with a chemical. And there's various types of chemicals and various depths that they're looking at.
okay,
And then we need to disc it and mix that in. We can blend it some with motor grader, but a disc does a more efficient job
Okay.
of mixing it. And then we need to start packing it. And then
so
there's
that's where the,
roller comes in.
Okay.
We've looked at, if you were to ask Tom O'Loughlin, we need to be buying a roller. Well,
Is this a vibrating?
it's the vibrating. And there's two types then too. There's the, with the pad foot, we call sheep's foot. And then there's a smooth drum. Well, you really need the pad foot to really get your compaction.
Mhm.
And that makes things last longer. The story is if we go to the veterinarian on Frost from her driveway north to 190th Street. In 2019, so we had the frost boils, it may have been that fall or 2020, we came in, ripped it up, dropped the fabric down, cleaned out the ditch, put that material on top, packed it.
right,
The
that's,
story was it was 3 years before I had any washboards even develop in there.
yeah, that seems to have worked fantastic.
It's done, I'm in agreement. I had about 30,000 in that quarter mile. Okay, so we're looking at
Let's not get rid
various,
of it again.
we're looking at various other materials and chemicals and we're getting donations. And actually the email I've got from Iowa State says they want to do 28 different test sections on 150th Street now.
Anytime that, when you're talking chemicals,
Yes,
we gotta really make sure that these already been, got the blessing from the EPA and the DNR.
yep,
Before
and
we put anything in our ground.
we're working through Iowa State with all this and Dr. Jalan. And so you know how concerned Dr. Jalan is on all this too. Yes. And yes, we are working with Iowa State. One of the chemicals stabilizations is chlorides. And, yeah, that one concerns me long-term, but that's common practice and accepted today. Probably one of the most effective dust controls too, if you're really looking at it that way.
Cause it'll reactivate.
And there was a study that came out of Michigan that I saw presented at NACE last April. That says in some roads, you can actually save yourself money by stabilizing the base. And if you look at 2019, we were feeding the rock monster rock galore and he just kept eating.
Yeah, Pac-Man.
So, the catch is it's not as simple as we think.
So how often do we rent this roller?
Would it make sense to buy? That's a mixed opinion out there. Tom O'Loughlin says if we had one, we'd use it a lot more. We're truly on one, we'd like to talk about renting two, possibly two rollers, and Clayton County has one they rent to me by the hour. So in other words, I put so many hours on it, and that's what I pay. And otherwise we'd start talking Altorfers or, which is cat and deer. And yeah, then it gets fairly spendy. Going in answer to your question, I spotted a used one about a year ago or a little more that I thought I should have probably jumped on, and the guys were opposed to it, and they're about $120,000 for a roller. I think it was that used one was. They're probably pushing 200,000 for a new one.
If you look at purchasing on this, have you got a budgeted ability in your budget to do it?
If we decide to purchase, we probably could, but that's not the direction we're really wanting to go right now, Clayton, especially with what,
Let's do the rental.
just do the rental this year again.
And how much you think you're gonna have in for rental costs?
The Altarfers is 6,350 per month, and we're thinking a month and a half to 2 months. That's 2,600 a week. If it was deer, it's 7,800 per month. But Altarfer only has either pad's foot or sheep's foot, smooth foot or sheep's foot. They don't have removable pads. The ham that Murphy had removable pads. Again, you're dealing with $1,500 a month more. And here's the honest thought, Clayton County would rent me theirs for about $180 an hour, plus 150 preparation costs. And if I just use it for the finished product, that'd be cheaper than pulling the pads on and off of a roller.
I thought you said you wanted two.
That was the second one, so I would rent the cheaper one from Altar first for $63.50 a month.
Uh-huh.
And I'd have probably 2 months into it. We're looking at actually trying to get started this month, and the ideal answer is I'd finish in a month, but
You're talking about,
overly optimistic
so you're talking maybe a maximum of 12.6.
on that one, yep.
And
And then with the other one, I don't think we'd have 20, 30 hours on it at 180 an hour.
What's that?
That would be in the 3,000-4,000 category again. I never calculated it right out, 180 times. Let's just say 40 hours total on it.
But then if you go ahead and do any projects, then you can go back.
Then I'm back renting again, yep. Best answer is don't jump on the first one to buy either, so you watch long term.
I think it'd be good to start putting some feelers out there, see what you can find.
Yeah, Clayton, I'm in that, I know most of my guys are not in that mindset, is the honest answer. If you talk to Phil, no, just rent when you need one.
okay,
And I'm gonna say that's true in the shop too.
Right.
And, yeah, that's, that's not my def, but I do try and listen to the guys too.
yeah.
That's the roller. And then on the disc, Brian Equipment has one for 3,500 a month. Dustin Zeezer actually has, or Zeezer Construction has one that he would rent me for 3 months for $2,500. That's basically the same as zero.
Okay.
Yeah, and Tom O says that Zeezer's would be fine.
And that was per month, or was that for the duration?
2,500 for the duration with Zeezer's.
Oh, wow, that's good.
You know, we were all built.
Yes, but you want to make it all public and known, because here I am dealing with, Dustin's tied in with there too.
Mhm.
And he works for me, so. But yes, yeah, Brian Equipment has the one for 3,500 a month. And he's 1,000 less, and we'll take it through the season.
We got an individual here that was out when we were looking at Ralph back there. He was, I think he would had impressed what we was doing on the roads out there, weren't you, Ralph, when you went out and did that site visit?
Absolutely. And where's that project standing at today? How well should it stand up?
Every one of those areas stood up very well. The little test section in between, when we went out there, we have some areas we didn't treat for our test sections. And I thought I could see wheel rutting in those at the time I was out there. I pointed that out, tried to take pictures too, but it's hard to get a picture of seeing wheel rutting where we didn't put the fabrics, but it's doing well. And they ran the roller through there to measure the shear, and that ran the whole county on all the rock roads. And if you start looking at, you'll see 500, 600 for our typical soils. We'll see 11, 12, 5,000, 6,000, 11,000, 12,000, up to 18,000 in some of our test sections.
Where it was treated?
Where it was treated, in what you're really dealing with was the fabric treatments there.
Correct.
Let's start talking Frost Avenue for just a second. The first quarter mile is the Portland cement treated at about 5-6%. And that's the old tried and true. Fly ash was another one that was really tried and true, but you can't get fly ash in today's world
That's because we don't burn coal anymore.
because you're not burning the coals. That's exactly right. It's creating some real issues. So that's not a real factor. The next one is Claycrete with 2% Portland, and that's working good too. We've had some really good luck with the Claycrete, and we've had some areas where it didn't work quite so good long term. Then the next half mile is a chemical that came out of Canada for space stabilization. And they were talking 120,000, and we got them per mile. We got them to cut that way down. We ended up giving them some money, but it was still, it's a spending material. Then we go into some research fabrics that were donated to us. And we did only about 300 feet. And then there was a farmer in the area that wanted us to do a little more, so he actually gave them about $6,000 for some more fabrics. And we extended that out a little farther, and it actually came back off the intersection of 210th Street. Then what you saw was over at 200th Street working south. And that's where we had the different types of developmental fabrics from Tensar. And then also we gotten the fabric donated to us, and then things were going too slow and they wanted it back. And I said, well, what would it cost if I was to buy this? And that's not Tensar, that's the other company. One of the other companies, there's two other companies, Solmex. Solmex is about 50,000 to get their fabrics that I've got sitting in my yard. And Dr. Little says, Brian, just wait. I'll deal with Solmex. And he did, and Solmex is on board for this year now. So we'll be putting that in. When he gets his sensors, and they're nervous about getting them in real timely, but we want to start on our other work first. And that's where we budgeted on 150th Street, because I've got such problems with that one too, both the base going out of it and the amount of trucks going on it. And
Your 11 to 18,000 fresh, that was on which of those test sites?
I could not identify right off, though I've got those notes sitting on my desk, and what they listed everything by GPS coordinates. And so I went on to Google Earth to get my GPS coordinates for what I've done on the ground. And the two were not relating real well, but I was comfortable saying this is on this material, that's on that. And even the polymers that we did about 2019 on 190th Street, which at the time we did it about a foot thick too. At the time we did it, it turned the road black, and the kids were going out there and leaving the tires on it and not picking up aggregate. It would turn it black and hard. But it only lasted a few months from that particular polymers. And so we're trying some other polymers. And again, that was all stuff that was coming out of California. We're trying some other polymers, and they want to do a bunch of different test sections with various thicknesses, various concentrations, and see what we come up with. And then I've got a couple other, like I said, Iowa State listed 28 different test sections on that stretch of road.
Well, the bottom line is here, because of the volume of traffic and the loads, the heavy loads we got, we're looking for answers here, or what we can do for our roads to improve our roads and to maintain our roads. So, and this here, I don't think we need to make a motion on this here. You got this thing's budgeted here for this?
Yes, I've got budgeted the project. It keep getting growing, so I might have to move some monies around in construction side, I guess.
Okay, so we're up to public comments.
Yep.
Anybody have any comments? Anything for the good of the cause?
Well, we do 28 different experimental. What happens in the long term when 5 of them fail?
Then I'm back to a rock road period. So it's, Wendy, you just gotta keep looking for better ways of doing things is the bottom
I
line.
understand, it seems like,
Let's go back to some of the failures with fabrics. And historically, the problem you get into where fabrics don't work is they get too, first of all, you can get just, the fabric's not strong enough and they'll punch through. But more so, they work to the top and then the motor grader starts getting into them, then you got a mess. And that's why I was trying to keep them very deep enough. Even though Tensar says, Ryan, no, with this here fabric, you don't need to, because they've done some things different with their geogrids, and they put a non-woven geotextile attached to it. Glued right onto it, so it's, they're working all the time too. Some of the other research fabrics we gotten into. And again, I try to keep it down there a foot, so I'm never into it. They're really developing for the railroad bases. Because of the heavy loads there and the impacts. And problem is they get spendy. That's why the chemicals tend to be cheaper. You gotta look, there's some counties, Washington County, Clinton County have had good luck with team-based one, and I really haven't. My guys didn't care for that much. Who put it on Carter Avenue? And we put it out here on 240th Street.
The thing with Portland, it's
You get a lot of money.
went up and away on product cost.
Yeah, yeah. Public comments, and one of the things you talked about was stop sign applications, and I grabbed that. But I also sent you a study that came out of Minnesota. Oops, I think I gave you 3 copies there, Don. Also, sent you guys a copy out of Minnesota, because I'm still getting some comments, so we need to be putting stop signs out there. There was a nice guy that got killed. Stop and yield signs at low volume intersections are not safety devices. Uncontrolled intersections have a lower expected crash frequency than the controlled intersections. So if you put the stop signs up, you actually increase the risk of having accidents there. It's counterintuitive.
Because people think that there's a 4-way stop sign there, so they're not.
Or 2-way.
Or 2-way.
Yeah, hey, I know those guys have stop signs. I don't need to worry. And we'll find ourselves doing that as we run down rock roads. You run down a rock road, you know, the side traffic has stop signs, you stop worrying about it. And this is such an issue that in Europe, they're actually removing the stop signs in many of the areas. Example, when I Googled this, is removal of stop signs in Europe. They'll tell you, Paris has no stop signs. You're responsible for your actions when you approach that intersection. Right-hand rule comes into play. And it's just like in the study I sent you, which came out of Minnesota. It also showed some studies in cities where they were playing with speed limits.
Mhm.
There are some areas where they drop the speed limits and then the traffic go faster. And so in this study, there's a lot of good reading in this Minnesota sign manual and their study there.
But you're talking
Are you
Minnesota.
on public comment on that, John? Or not?
You what? Yeah,
Are you on public comment? on that?
Yes.
we are, yeah.
I totally agree 100%. Once I saw that hit the Facebook and everything. You can have all the signs you want, but it's never gonna get rid of careless driving. It all boils down to people being responsible and take the responsibility of their driving actions. And in town, we have people blow stop signs religiously. We have people blow stoplights religiously. We have, a prime example is the library right over here. You have flashing yellow light when the kids are there, or parents are there, they hit the button for the flashing yellow light, you're supposed to stop if there's anybody, pedestrians in the street. I've seen them blow those lights big time. Up at Moshe, where you have the flashing yellow light. I've seen 2 kids almost get hit on their bikes because nobody slowed up. You will never get rid of stupidity driving. And ignorant driving. I don't care what you do.
Here's another little factor. I've been here 31 years. I know 2 fatal crashes at uncontrolled intersections. And in both cases, the person that passed away did not have their seatbelt on. Yeah, so now everybody knows you should wear your seatbelt, but there is that segment of our society that will not wear a seatbelt.
And on gravel roads, especially now the corn is up and everything, you've got tons of blind intersections. It's your responsibility as a driver to slow up when you enter that intersection and make sure it's clear to go through. Not drive 50, 60 mile an hour on gravel road just below the intersections. That's irresponsible driving.
Last Wednesday, I had a lady in my office who was a good friend of the victim up there, and she sat there for well over an hour and we covered these details. Which we left, yeah, I think she was comfortable with those answers, just like you're saying. I could put all the signs out there they want, people don't listen to them.
Absolutely.
In the sign manual that lists stop signs is one of those signs that appear to be ineffective.
It sounds great. But in the real world, it's ineffective.
So
I think that would be a waste of money.
not only that, if my crash rate as referenced in the Minnesota sign manual would actually increase by putting the stop signs up, what I've done is counterproductive to what I'm trying to accomplish.
If somebody pulls up to the stop sign and they look, seems clear, and all of a sudden somebody's coming 50 mile an hour and they pull out, done.
Or more.
Or the other ones will never stop.
You get that segment that will never stop, and I think of a fatal that I had on the Dugan, I won't list names in. But the story was, he would never stop for the stop signs. He would blow across the pavement several times a day.
Gone through this intersection 30, 40 times, nobody's ever there, so I just started blowing the stop sign.
And he's
Eventually,
blowing,
you're gonna get hit
and this is blowing across the pavement.
across the pavement.
Yes, that's where
At least in
the.
the
Plain
gravel roads, you can kind of see, like, if you have a dust trail, you know there's somebody coming.
Yeah, no, that was the story on a fatality we had on the Dugan a few years back. The story was he would never stop for the stop signs, even when he crossed the pavement. And then it was a young lady in a Jeep that T-boned him and he was killed and she had bad injuries.
If, my personal opinion, it would be a waste of the taxpayer money's put stop signs on those intersections. And God forbid, another fatality happens, but you cannot ever get rid of ignorant.
My answer is you follow the state law, says you follow the MUTCD, which lists the guidelines when to follow, when to put them up.
That's what it is.
Why.
Yep.
As far as I'm concerned, we continue following them or.
Yes.
Other thing I'd like to say is, it was a privilege to serve under Chad on the board. And his leadership really took us through the last 3 years. And I believe that Amber had learned so much. And she has been so easy to work with. I think she is a good choice to succeed him at the position. Like that.
Yes. But then we need to find a new Amber.
That'll be tough.
Yes,
That'll be tough.
it's gonna be real hard.
With restorations, do you have a 3 to 5 year plan? I mean, he was here and gave you all kinds of stuff and, what's the priority number 1, priority number 2? And have you thought about, getting money from the community donations, that type of thing? As far as an architect, would Ed Larson have somebody that would do it cheaply or almost free because he lives in the community, or anybody else? I mean, architects aren't cheap.
No.
And Ed Larson's company's built a lot of school buildings. I've been involved with him on a couple different building projects, but I don't know if he would donate. I mean, it seems like there's people that don't know what to do, but are willing to help. And I think the thing is, what's the communication? What's the ask? And I think we need to ask people before we go and spend a lot of money on some of these things that may not need to be done.
Right.
And, the roof, I think, is, like, I think I told you one other time in the school building I had at Dunkerton, we thought it was the windows that was leaking. No, it was the roof due to a tornado that shifted the roof. So, is Andy Miller still the one for service roofing, or did he sell that business?
He's still there.
Okay, Andy's a great guy.
Yeah.
He was doing it
He's still there.
for years.
And he came here and he spent a lot of time, I had lined up, Bethany was here at the same time and Andy came at the same time. And they both did a review together of the roof system and stuff like that. So they contributed a lot of extra time to do that, so. And we're working on coming up with some plans and stuff that we can move forward, take care of our infrastructure and stuff. It's always been kind of the thing there's always some budget issues, you
Sure.
know what that's like. So we're trying to make sure that our infrastructure is taken care of and maintained and stuff. we're moving towards that direction.
And it's gonna be a step at a time, because of budget, you have to do it step at a time, what's the
Right.
priority?
Yeah.
Even our own historical society,
Yes, they,
do they have connections?
Well, and I've talked to Leanne and stuff, I'm working with them people to find out what's available out there. And we'll be working with our COG on this and stuff too.
Yeah.
Uh,
We probably do
We're
need
just
to,
looking for money out there where we can get it, the funding.
Yeah.
And a lot of that stuff comes with cost share, you know.
And grant writers aren't cheap.
No.
And good grant writers definitely aren't cheap.
we stole one from the COG though. Evan is our best kept secret ever. He used to write grants for Intercog. We should have put that in his job description, JS/grant writer. No, we probably do need to have like a 3 to 5 year plan, like a workshop or something to figure out what we're gonna do. Because, I mean, you just can't arbitrarily say, I'm gonna fix this year. It needs to be planned
It
out.
has to go on right order.
Yes,
I think there's free advice out there if you just find
right.
it, or really cheap advice, I should say.
Brian, what was the name of that first company you spoke of renting the disc? It started with a B.
Oh, Brian Equipment out of Hazelton, Old Wine, I'm not sure what their
I think
Sure,
they're more
addresses.
towards the line. Thank you.
BRYANT.
Is there anything else? Yes,
I adore Amber. Somebody tell her to speak up or get her microphones up. She's really difficult to hear.
Yeah.
Voiced.
Speak softly, carry a big stick, huh?
there's
Nothing else,
nothing.
nothing else, I'll make a motion to adjourn.
I'll second it. Meeting's adjourned at 10:40.
Thank you. I'll tell the guys to kind of proceed. We're starting